Imagine being boiled alive, not in water, but in bubbling, scorching oil. This isn't a scene from some horror movie. It was the real public execution of a man who horrified an entire city. His name was Marcus Attilius Regulus, a respected Roman general whose legend was forged not just by his courage and integrity, but by the sheer brutality of his end. His story is a chilling testament to honor, defiance, and the unimaginable cruelty of the ancient world. To understand how a hero of Rome met such a gruesome fate, we have to travel back to the First Punic War, a colossal struggle between two ancient superpowers, Rome and Carthage. From 264 to 241 BC, these titans clashed for absolute control of the Mediterranean Sea. This was a conflict of epic proportions, a true world war of its time, and at its heart was Marcus Regulus. In 256 BC, Regulus, serving as consul, the highest office in the Roman Republic, was given a monumental task: lead a massive Roman invasion of North Africa. The plan was audacious. Instead of fighting Carthage at sea or on the island of Sicily, Rome would strike directly at the enemy's heartland. Regulus was the man to do it. He was a proven commander, respected by his troops and feared by his enemies. The invasion began with stunning success. Regulus and his legions landed on African soil and immediately went on the offensive. They were an unstoppable force, winning battle after battle, carving a path of destruction through Carthaginian territory. The Roman advance was so swift and so devastating that they soon stood at the very gates of Carthage itself. The city was in a state of panic. It seemed like the war was all but over, and Rome was on the verge of a historic victory. With Carthage on its knees, Regulus was in a position to dictate terms. He sent a delegation to the Carthaginian leaders with a peace proposal. But this wasn't an offer of peace. It was a demand for unconditional surrender. The terms were deliberately harsh, designed not just to end the war, but to humiliate Carthage, to break its spirit and ensure it could never challenge Rome again. He demanded they give up their navy, pay a massive indemnity, and effectively become a vassal state of Rome. For Carthage, this was unthinkable. They were a proud and powerful people. To accept such terms would be a fate worse than defeat. Outraged and insulted, the Carthaginian Senate flatly refused. Backed into a corner, they made a desperate but brilliant move. They looked abroad for help and hired a Spartan mercenary general named Xanthippus. Xanthippus was a master of tactics, a student of the very art of war. He was tasked with a single mission: rebuild Carthage's shattered army and drive the Romans out of Africa. And so, the tide of the war began to turn. In 255 BC, at the Battle of Tunis, the newly revitalized Carthaginian army, under the command of Xanthippus, met Regulus's legions. The Spartan general's superior strategy completely outmaneuvered the Romans. He used his war elephants to smash through the Roman lines and his cavalry to encircle them. The result was a catastrophic defeat for Rome. Regulus's army wasn't just beaten, it was annihilated. Amidst the chaos and slaughter, Marcus Attilius Regulus himself was captured. The celebrated Roman consul, who had stood at the brink of conquering Carthage, was now their prisoner. He was stripped of his armor, put in chains, and paraded through the streets of Carthage, a living, breathing symbol of Rome's crushing defeat. For the Carthaginians, he was the ultimate prize, a testament to their miraculous comeback. For years, Regulus languished in a Carthaginian prison. Back in Rome, many assumed he was dead, a hero lost in a distant war. His name faded into memory, another casualty of the long and brutal conflict. But he was very much alive, enduring the misery of captivity, his fate unknown. Then, around the year 250 BC, something extraordinary happened. The war had dragged on, with neither side able to land a decisive blow. Carthage, weary of the endless conflict, decided to try diplomacy. They hatched a plan and saw the perfect pawn for it: their famous Roman prisoner, Regulus. They pulled him from his cell and made him an offer. He would be sent back to Rome on a diplomatic mission. His task was to persuade the Roman Senate to agree to a peace treaty, or at the very least, a prisoner exchange. But there was a condition, a solemn one. Regulus had to swear a sacred oath that if his mission failed, he would voluntarily return to his captivity in Carthage. Imagine the scene in Rome. The Senate is in session, debating the state of the war, when a figure appears at the door. He is frail, weathered by years of imprisonment, but unmistakable. It's Marcus Attilius Regulus, a ghost from the past, returned from the dead. A wave of shock and astonishment sweeps through the Senate. He's alive, but the joy of his return was short-lived. The Carthaginians expected him to stand before his fellow senators and plead for peace, to argue for an end to the bloodshed, to save his own skin. He did the exact opposite. In a defiant and powerful speech, Regulus told the Senate to reject Carthage's offer. He argued that the Carthaginian army was weak, their resources depleted, and their spirit broken. He insisted that the proposed prisoner exchange was a terrible deal for Rome, as they would be trading away young, capable Carthaginian commanders for old, tired Roman soldiers like himself. He told them that victory was within their grasp and urged them to fight on, to press their advantage and crush Carthage once and for all. Everyone in that chamber understood the implication of his words. Regulus was signing his own death warrant. He knew that by urging Rome to continue the war, he was ensuring his mission would fail. And because of his sacred oath, he would have to return to Carthage to face the consequences. This was a profound moral choice. He was choosing the honor and future glory of Rome over his own life. His family was devastated. His wife and children fell at his feet, weeping, begging him to stay. They pleaded with him to break his oath, arguing that an oath made to an enemy was not binding. Senators, his friends, joined in, imploring him to remain in Rome, to enjoy the freedom he had been so miraculously granted. But Regulus was immovable. He calmly explained that he had given his word. His honor as a Roman was absolute. He refused to even embrace his family, considering himself no longer a Roman citizen, but merely the property of Carthage. And so, with a resolve that stunned all of Rome, Marcus Attilius Regulus turned his back on his home, his family, and his freedom. He walked out of the Senate, through the streets of his beloved city, and began the long journey back to Carthage, fully aware that he was returning to his doom. When news of Regulus's speech reached Carthage, their reaction was one of pure fury. They had sent him as a peace envoy, and he had returned as a warmonger. They felt betrayed, tricked, and utterly humiliated. Their rage knew no bounds, and they decided that a simple execution would not suffice. For his defiance, Regulus had to suffer. They were going to inflict the maximum amount of pain imaginable. His torture was systematic and diabolical. First, they subjected him to extreme sleep deprivation. For days on end, guards stood over him, prodding him with their spears every time he started to doze off. The goal was to drive him into a state of delirium, to break his mind before they broke his body. Then came an even more sadistic cruelty. They cut off his eyelids. With his eyes permanently forced open, they made him stare directly into the blazing North African sun. The relentless glare burned his retinas, drying out his eyeballs until they cracked and he was blinded. The pain would have been constant, excruciating, a torment designed to shatter even the strongest will. But they weren't finished. His final ordeal was the most monstrous of all. The Carthaginians constructed a narrow wooden box just large enough for a man to fit inside. And they studded the interior with sharp iron spikes. They forced Regulus into this cage of nails. Every movement, every breath would cause the spikes to tear into his flesh. He was trapped, unable to stand, sit, or lie down without being impaled. It's in this spiked box that he finally died. A slow, agonizing death from exhaustion, pain, and his countless festering wounds. Some ancient accounts even add the final horror, that he was then placed in a cauldron of boiling oil, a final act of desecration. The story of Marcus Attilius Regulus became a cornerstone of Roman virtue. He was held up for centuries as the ultimate example of fides. The Roman concept of honor, duty, and keeping one's word, no matter the cost. His horrific death served not to intimidate Rome, but to galvanize it. Enraged by Carthage's barbarism, the Romans prosecuted the war with renewed vigor, eventually winning the First Punic War and setting the stage for their eventual domination of the Mediterranean. Regulus lost his life, but in doing so, he became an immortal legend, a symbol of a man who chose honor over life itself. As his body touches the searing liquid, a scream rips through the air. It's a sound of pure agony, a sound that will be seared into the memory of everyone present. The screams echo off the stone buildings as Regulus is submerged, burned and drowned in that horrific cauldron of boiling oil. It's a slow, torturous death, designed to be a spectacle of maximum cruelty. When it's finally over, a profound quiet falls over the square. The only sound is the crackling of the fire beneath the pot. His charred remains are then pulled from the oil and put on display, a grotesque warning to all enemies of Carthage. But the reaction isn't what the Carthaginian leaders might have hoped for. Even these hardened people, accustomed to the brutality of war, are visibly horrified. A wave of shock and sorrow washes over the crowd. They have just witnessed an act of barbarism that transcends the norms of even ancient warfare. Back in Rome, when news of Regulus's death arrives, it hits the city like a thunderclap. The initial shock quickly turns into a tidal wave of grief and white-hot fury. Regulus isn't just a dead general, he is instantly transformed into a martyr. He becomes the ultimate symbol of Roman honor, duty, and unwavering loyalty, the embodiment of fides, the Roman concept of good faith. He chose certain death over breaking his sacred oath, and for that, he becomes a national hero. But the story takes an even darker, more personal turn. Regulus's wife, Marcia, is consumed by grief and a burning desire for vengeance. According to some historical accounts, she gets her hands on two noble Carthaginian prisoners of war. In a chilling act of parallel cruelty, she allegedly locks them in a small room, torturing them, mirroring the agonizing fate her husband suffered. It's a grim reminder that a thirst for revenge can make monsters of us all, blurring the lines between justice and savagery. This horrifying spectacle was meant to break Rome's spirit, to show them the price of defying Carthage. But it backfired, spectacularly. Instead of instilling fear, the murder of Regulus fueled Rome's resolve like nothing before. It galvanized the Roman people. The story of his sacrifice spread like wildfire, igniting a renewed determination to see the war through to its bitter end. Roman soldiers fought with a new ferocity, inspired by the general who gave everything for the Republic. And in the end, this renewed spirit paid off. Rome won the First Punic War. The story of Regulus didn't end there. It became a cornerstone of Roman cultural memory, a powerful piece of propaganda. For centuries, his tale was told and retold to every Roman child. It was a lesson in duty, integrity, and the strength to endure unimaginable hardship for the sake of one's honor and one's country. He became more than a man. He became a legend, a testament to the idea that some principles are worth dying for. His gruesome end became a foundational myth of the Roman Republic, a story of how a single act of courage, even in death, could change the course of history. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the brutal heart of ancient Rome. If you found this story as compelling as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe for more tales from history, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode. See you next time.